athlete's prayer was given to me preseason of my freshman year in college with the following context written below the prayer. The above prayer, written by J.J. Metcalf, appeared in the Morning Advocate newspaper, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in 1950. It was cut out and finally presented to me by a young lady in the field house of LSU. From that day forward, as I donned my pads in the locker room, I privately recited the prayer before every LSU football game I played. After people gave it to me, it lived in my locker for my 4-year career, and I read it before every home game. The prayer goes, "Be with me, God, and help me win the contest of today. But let me hear with humble heart the praises people say. Let me be perfect in my form, and let each aim be true. And let me take a certain pride in everything that I do. But fill my soul with honesty, and listen to my prayer, that every time I play the game, I play it fair and square. Because the glory of this world can only last so long. And there is bound to be an end to every magic song. And every victory I gain belongs at last to you, because you give me all the strength to see each struggle through. Amen."
When somebody has lived 93 and a half years, had multiple careers, and lived in well over a dozen places spread across 4 countries, as Dad did, it is difficult to review his life in a reasonable length of time. So instead, the 4 sons over the next 10 minutes or so will each present one aspect of Dad's life that stands out to them. Throughout Dad's life, he always believed in the importance of education, and has this belief factored into many of the decisions of his life, starting with his own education. As a child and teenager, he enjoyed and excelled in sports here in Beavis and Jackson. But he also saw this as his path to being able to obtain a college education through a scholarship. He took full advantage of his scholarship at LSU, even taking a number of graduate level courses during his last quarter when he only needed 1 PE course to graduate. Several years later, when we lived in Remembrance, Louisiana, he continued work on his master's degree by going back and forth to Baton Rouge in the evenings, but was interrupted when we moved to West Virginia. The elementary schools and the junior high schools in Remembrance, West Virginia were pretty good, but the high school left a lot to be desired. Dad did not want us to go to high school later, and as I was approaching high school age, he started looking for ways to leave Ravenswood, either through a transfer with Kaiser or possibly an employer change. This is one of several factors that led to his decision to accept the transfer to Australia. While in Australia, Dad showed us that education was more than just an academic endeavor when he and Mom planned 2 extensive trips, which required us to miss about 6 weeks of school each time through Asia and Europe, so that we could learn about other cultures, peoples, and history. Shortly after returning back to the U.S., Dad was asked to move to Jamaica. They accepted the position with one education-related proviso, that they could find a good boarding school for Sean and Poland in Florida. In Jamaica, we saw his actions to promote educational opportunities expand beyond the family when he worked with Nova University to set up a program where the Nova faculty would come to Jamaica and teach courses so that the Kaiser Bauxite employees could work towards and earn bachelor's and master's degrees while continuing to work and provide for their families. In 1992, we saw his efforts to facilitate educational opportunities extend to the next generation when he and Bee set up an educational trust fund for the grandchildren, ensuring that they could go to the college of their choice. At the same time, about the same time, Dad retired from Kaiser and started his second career in academia by joining the Nova staff and teaching in programs around the world similar to that he had helped set up in Jamaica. He also went back to school himself to earn a PhD. He continued in academia for many years as a professor, administrator, school advisor, student advisor, providing educational opportunities and guidance to many students. The zeal for education continued even after he retired from Sanford. In his later years, he took interest in the education of his great-grandchildren. I remember him asking him to tell you, every time he saw how school was, what was her favorite subjects, and encouraging her to continue to work hard and learn.
One too many steps.
Although I couldn't find the citation this morning, I once read, the wise man said, the true measure of a person is the good or bad that they do when no one's looking. Dad was wonderful when no one was looking. I believe it. Almost every person in this church and those watching from afar, every single one of you benefited directly from his generosity. But beyond that, Dad was extraordinarily generous to people he never knew. I'd like to tell you one small story, but I have to do some background first. In Jamaica, where bauxite is mined, it is found in the poorest parts of the country because the land is extraordinarily hilly. It looks like those slides you see in China. And the bauxite is found at the bottom of the valleys. Those are the poorest parts of Jamaica because the land can't be farmed because it's too uneven. After you mine out the bauxite, all the government required was that you put a little bit of dirt back. But for Dad, that wasn't good enough. He created a program where they leveled the land so that it could be farmed. Not by Kaiser, but by the inhabitants of the area. He found a plant, instead of subsistence farming, that they could grow green peppers there. And he then arranged for Kaiser to put on boats to send them to the United States where the prices were better, and thereby improve the lots of literally hundreds of farmers. Now, the small story. I had the privilege of spending perhaps 10, 12 hours a day with Dad in the last few days of his life. When he was lucid, he talked to and he talked about his family. When he wasn't lucid, he relived a part of his life. But it wasn't a part where he was winning. It wasn't where he was achieving great things as he did. The part he relived was problem solving. How to help those farmers better. He literally talked for hours, looking
most of your potential in all aspects of your life. Being persistent in the face of adversity and humble in the face of success. Being kind and sharing your gifts with others, as Eddie Kevin just shared. And being devoted to your faith. Here's just one example. I remember coming home one day in 4th grade and informing Dad that John Ferris's father gave him a bonus in his allowance when he made good grades. Why didn't Dad do that when I made good grades? Because, he said, the grades themselves are not what really matters. God blesses everyone with different talents. And what really matters is that you work hard every day to use your God-given talents to their fullest. If you do that, you'll succeed way more often than you fail in school and in life. And whenever you do fail, you need never be ashamed, because you'll know you gave it everything you had. Dad said his top 3 priorities in his life were God, his family, and his country. And he certainly gave everything he had every day in support of those priorities. So as we send him home today, I'm reminded of what the Apostle Paul wrote to Timothy as he neared the end of his own life, which I think applied perfectly to Dad. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now, the crown of righteousness awaits me, which the Lord, the last judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearance.
For those of you all getting hungry, I just want to let you know that Dad's got our backs. And Father David, the 10 minutes or so that I referenced, I'm the overflow part. So there you go. Dad was not perfect. And to suggest that he was would be, to me, inviting that narrative that can creep into moments like this and call into question the beautiful words of Father David, my brothers, and many of you here. If you want to dismiss it, it's the rhetoric of eulogy. So to be clear, Dad wasn't perfect. Dad was delightfully imperfect. He was kind. He was selfless. And he was broken like the rest of us. And he was redeemed. I don't presume that the reflections I share today are anybody's but my own, because each one of you in this room, at some level, knew Dad personally. So you have your own lens through which you can cast the light on Dad's life. But what I hope I'm able to achieve is to perhaps elicit in you a warm memory, a unique experience that you had with Dad. And I stress the word unique because Dad had an amazing gift for love. In fact, sometimes love to a fault. But more so, Dad was gifted with the ability to love each person uniquely. He saw each of us, sons, daughters, grandchildren, as their own person. He accepted each of us as our own person. And he loved each one of us as our own person. And while as the youngest and the best looking, sorry, all these years we've been coddling you, try being his brother in high school and try to get a date. It just doesn't work out. But Dad could have had a favorite, but he didn't. Nonetheless, Dad sought, using his vernacular, to love us first among equals. As the youngest, I didn't have any perspective, though. I had the chance to see my brothers grow up, not just through my own eyes, but also through the eyes of my parents. Being the last one, the youngest, I still had time at home, alone with them, albeit as we went back and forth to Jamaica. I got to hear them say the things that perhaps my brothers didn't hear them say about them. Dad's pride in Ed Jr. was unbelievable. That is his namesake. The way he celebrated Kevin, when Kevin said, I'm going to take on something much bigger than me and try to do something with Coyne Scientific that could truly change the path of the world. And he stood in awe of Sean. Sean's courage to not won 2 bouts of cancer and still maintain his intrinsic goodness. So I can say that reservation all hyperbole that during those times, I never once saw Dad compare us to one another. And as the youngest, that's a big deal. You're trying to live up to 3 extraordinary brothers. Never once. He never withheld love or affection, demeaned or saw us as less. Even and perhaps especially when he was in disagreement with us. And never once did I hear him speak ill of his sons, his daughters, or his grandchildren. Not once. I probably wasn't so graceful, but it had not once. That was Dad's love. It was whole and it was complete. As 1 Corinthians chapter 13 instructs us, Dad's love never failed. It was infinitely patient and kind. Dad never dishonored us, and he never kept a record of wrongs. He protected us, he trusted us, and he remained infinitely hopeful. Now that infinite hope was tested mightily when, after 32 years of marriage to the woman who broke the hearts of many a co-ed at LSU, she married Dad and gave him 5 children. That's in 1985 when Mom died. Yet from the place of loneliness and darkness, a light pierced through. Dad's sense of hope opened his heart, and then he and Bee got together. 37 years of love. After all, he thought all his joy had ceased, he found life anew. Bee, for all those 37 years that he stood by Dad, nothing compares to the last 48 hours. Watching your kindness, your love, the beautiful way you sang him into his ear. It was something that is just a gift I wouldn't be able to repay, so thank you. Dad's love was rooted in a deep sense of fidelity. Again, Father David is the or so part of the 10 minutes, so I promise. And once he gave his love was whole, and it never wavered. His love for Darlene, his love for Yurgana, his love for Denise, and his love for Leslie was complete. He also had a love that was without limit for his brother Horace. He bragged about Horace all the time. And he was able to transfer that love over without fail or exclusion to Aunt Doris, Larry, David, and Pat. He truly loved you deeply. Thank you for being here. Dad's fidelity also found a way to love John D. and Venus in such a way that we have been connected for the better part of 9 decades now. And Father David, Chris, Ms. Graham, thank you. The gift you gave us, your fidelity to our family, is without end, and it will never, ever be forgotten. But the key to Dad's fidelity ultimately was his faith. The love he practiced emanated from the irrepressible hope he found in the love of Jesus Christ. Dad knew that one day he would again be with Amy and Peepaw, Horace and Doris, Kathy and Katie. He knew that when he left this earth, he would remain forever with Bee and his sons, and his daughters and his grandchildren. He left this earth with something that very few of us possess. He left this life with certainty.
was going, for anyone who loves Dad, that is a reason to celebrate today. As I stated at the outset, Dad was not perfect. For those times when he fell short of his aspirations, may we grant the grace Dad granted to us. May we humble ourselves as Dad did and humbled himself to the peoples of the world wherever he went. And may we grant to him the forgiveness that we hope our children will grant to us when it's our time. Ariana, Dallas, and Zoe, I'm not going to look at you. As he slides away, one day, you will be standing there. And it will be me resting there. And it is my hope that you can look out to those gathered, assuming anyone shows up, and say, my father was half the man that was my grandfather. Because if you can say that, I will be twice the man I ever dreamed I could be. I love you, Dad. And as he did, I love all of you. May God bless you. May God keep you. May your travels home be swift and safe. And may we always remember that it is not the words that are spoken here that honor Dad, but the way in which we choose to live our lives. May we live them with love, fidelity, faith, and kindness. May we live them with humility as we are taught in Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of the others. I love you all.
Coyne warned me that he and his brothers had the gift of tears, and so those were very